studio. I'm Courtney Sproulls, a certified personal trainer, and today we're going to cover the importance of ankle mobility. So you might not think about your ankles too much, but they are very crucial for proper posture, alignment, movement, mechanics, and performance. So if you think about all the things your ankle does for you, it absorbs shock and it allows you to move properly with your feet and your knees and your hips. And it's really important that we keep it really mobile and able to do what it was meant to do, which is roll around in every direction and adapt to surfaces as we step our foot on the ground, onto rocks, onto different surfaces and textures, so that it doesn't change or impact our knees and our hips, right? So our body is a kinetic chain, which means our joints work together and each joint affects each other. So it's really important that we mobilize our ankles and our hips in particular in all the directions it should be able to move, so that our knee, that only moves forward and back, doesn't take the brunt of our lack of mobility in our ankles and our hips. Okay, so you might notice that you have knee pain if your ankles are really stiff or if your hip is really stiff. But let's focus on the ankles right now. Your ankle is made up of your tibia, your fibula, and your talus bone. Okay, so your tibia and fibula are the bones at the front of your leg, and then your talus bone is in your ankle. And all of these bones are supported by ligaments and muscles. So they're all working together in order for you to move well, hopefully. And if it's not moving well, I'll give you some tips and tricks on how to mobilize and strengthen the joints so that you don't have any of that knee pain or compensation in the rest of your kinetic chain. Okay, so you might notice that your feet, when you're standing, overpronate, or you go into this caving in of the ankles. This is an indication that you might have some weakness in your feet. If you are experiencing that, I have a whole video about strengthening your feet, so go tune back into that one. But you might notice that the ankles are having to cave in as well, and then the knees cave in, and then the hips cave in, and there's just a lot going on there that we want to fix or shift so that you don't have that overcompensation or overpronation through the ankles. Okay, so first I want you to focus on lifting through the arches of your feet, turning your foot outward a little bit, and watching your knees track in line with your second toes. You might notice right away that your TFL, your outer thigh, and your glute medius turn on by just that little adjustment. Okay, so that's one little seed I'm gonna plant for now that you can change in your day-to-day, just focusing on how the arches of your feet impact how your ankle and your knees are in space. Okay, now a couple of exercises I want you to focus on to see how mobile your ankles are and to improve mobility. One, ankle circles. So I like to do this on the floor laying down, but you can also do this standing. So if you're in a place where you can lay down, go ahead and join me. Let's extend the right foot to the sky. First, we're going to flex the heel, toes towards your face, and then point your toes towards the sky. Do that a few times and just check in with the muscles around your ankle and how loose or tight they may feel. From there, draw the size of grapefruit on the ceiling. I'm going pretty big. Mine's a big grapefruit. So let's go about 4 or 5 in one direction. Take as much time as you want there, and then reverse your circle. Now, if there's a point where your grapefruit looks a little dented, like you're going a little square, take note of that. Again, we're not forcing anything right now. We're just creating some awareness around our body. Okay, let's now tune into the other side. Ground your foot, that foot you just used, on the floor, and then point and flex your other foot towards the sky. I like to really separate the toes here to check in with the muscles around the feet as well. Pointing and flexing a few times, keeping your leg as high and parallel to the wall as you can. And then you're going to draw that circle with your foot, creating about the size of a grapefruit. One direction and then the other. And notice where there's some stuck energy, some stuck muscles maybe, or your joint feels a little tight. Just notice. Okay, once you built that awareness on both feet, you now know where there's room for improvement. Okay, but I would just start by practicing that regularly, and eventually that'll get more mobile. From there, we'll go into a calf stretch. So you can do that one laying down too, but this one I actually like to do standing up. So if you have a surface like a wall or a slant box, this can be really helpful. I'm going to go against the wall, shifting the toes onto the wall. Your leg will stay straight. Pull your hip back a little bit and lean towards the wall. So you'll feel a really nice stretch in the calf on your right leg in particular. That's the one I'm starting with. Breathing into the back body, really focusing on lengthening through the spine and pulling your hips up and back. And then switch to the other side. So now your other foot, my left foot, will be on the wall. Heel to the floor, hips go up and back towards the ceiling, and I'm leaning forward in towards the wall. I'm turning my face so I can talk to you, but you would face your head towards the wall. Feeling a really nice stretch through the calf muscles here. If you don't have a wall nearby or you choose not to work on the wall, you can do this standing. But again, focusing on prioritizing the lengthening of the spine, sending the hips up and back, creating length in the back of the hamstring and calf, and flaring your toes, splaying, whatever word you want to use, your toes towards your face. Breathing here, and switch. Try and be as mindful as you can while you're here. I know it can be kind of boring to stretch the muscles, but not when you're really in tune with your body. You're doing something really good for yourself. So that would be a calf stretch and ankle circles that we just covered. Now you can work on strengthening the muscles. So calf raises. I'd like you to do this with a mirror or recording yourself so you can really watch the details of your feet. So I want you to think of the tripod of your foot. The big toe, the little toe, and the heel are all grounded on the floor. From here, soft bend in the knees. I want you to lift your heels up, tracing the heel in line with the second toe. So if you were to look in the mirror, your heel is in line with your second toe rather than splaying out. That tends to be something that happens, or even caving in. Notice what your foot wants to do, lower back down. So again, we're going to trace the heel in line with the second toe, lifting with control. I'm looking down to make sure I'm doing this correctly for you, but I want you to watch yourself do this. So you're just lifting your heels in line with your second toe with control. Yes, it is a calf raise, but I want you to think of this more of a heel raise because we're really focusing on the ankles and mobilizing through the ankles with control. Okay? All right, I'm getting a little lost in this. I have fun with it. So once we're done with our calf raises, there's a couple other ones you can do, like toe taps. Sending your body into that same position we were just in for the calf stretch. Tailbone lifts up towards the sky, spine stays long. Now you're going to tap your toe down to the floor and lift. Okay, so we're lengthening the calf, engaging the muscles around the shin, the anterior tibialis in particular, as you lift your toes towards your face. I have a tendency to put my hand on my ab wall to make sure that my spine is really long and I'm not sticking my butt out too much. My abs stay really tight. So if you're done with this right side, let's go ahead and switch to the other side. Tapping the toes down towards the floor and lifting the toes up towards your face. And we're watching the foot with great detail. Notice if the foot wants to splay out or maybe it goes inward. Okay, so we're wanting the knees and the ankles and the second toe to all be tracing. Now a couple little things I want to add in as far as when you're learning to balance or you're focusing on squats or deadlifts or anything where you're grounding your feet, which is a lot of our movement practice. I like to focus on engaging my foot into the floor where my ankle meets my foot. This is the point where it should be the most stable. If I'm shifting forward all the time, this is going to put a lot of pressure on the knee and the shin. So, again, it's a kinetic change, so it's affecting everything else. So I want you to really focus on grounding through the tripod of your foot, not overly favoring the heels, not overly favoring the toes, really finding that center of gravity, lifting through the arches and grounding through the place where your ankle meets your foot. Okay? So those are some exercises that I would start with. Ankle circles, calf stretches, calf raises, toe taps. Now, balance is another part of that. You can start by practicing one leg, single leg balance, and checking in, watching yourself in the mirror, see how your knee, your ankle, and your hip are all tracking. And then switch to the other side. Another thing to consider is your footwear. So looking at the bottom of your shoes, seeing where your wear patterns are, that will give you a good indication of how you operate throughout your day, whether standing or moving. And with that awareness, you can start to shift your movement practice in order to compensate, or rather support your compensation patterns. So if you have any questions about that, please feel free to reach out to me or message on PE Studio on Instagram or leave a comment below. But remember to stay consistent with your practice. Remember to continue to show up for yourself in mobilizing, lengthening, and strengthening your body. And this is the right place to do it. So thanks for finding us at Physical Embodiment Studio. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.